Hello there. I am not ignoring the elephant in the room. Yes, I actually was gone for a little while, both hospitalized and even another surgery. I'm going to actually just save it for another episode though, because he says today he wants me to share with you all I've come to know about schizophrenia. So, it is a complex mental disorder characterized by a range of symptoms, including hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking, and impaired social functioning. The exact cause of schizophrenia is not fully understood, even though it's been 1,000 years since it was discovered. We can do a brief overview together, but this illness specifically is the only one to be truly considered a syndrome because it encompasses a number of other related disorders that have the same symptoms, but they appear all at the same time. It feels that it can even become something like a batshit crazy syndrome if left unchecked. So, um, I want to say it's a result, though, from a combination of genetic, biological, and environmental factors. Research suggests that genetics play a significant role in the development of schizophrenia. Studies have shown that individuals with a first degree relative, like a parent or a sibling, with it have a higher risk of developing this disorder, compared to the general population. The estimated uh, heritability of schizophrenia is around 6%, indicating a strong genetic component. Several genes have been identified that may contribute to the development of schizophrenia. It includes things like even prenatal exposure to or infections, nutritional deficiencies, and stress. Additionally, certain life experiences such as trauma or substance abuse may trigger the onset of schizophrenia in individuals who are genetically predisposed to the disorder. While genetics play a significant role in the development of schizophrenia, it is important to recognize that the disorder is complex and multifactorial. Today's society intertwines, with further research, which is needed. It just really relates back to, though, having a mental disorder and, instead of seeking help, doing substances. And tragically, it's difficult to fully comprehend the interplay between, genetic and environmental factors in the development of these and other, mental health diagnoses. All of the above, just begin to bleed out when an onset or an episode, right, is what I like to call when it appears, batshit crazy. But it's when someone enters the scene and presents their symptoms, they usually don't go on unnoticed for long by others, neighbors, family members, at the very least. They plainly see something, where a person did more than change their personality, right? It's always a grim reminder that a person, a mother even, can have the capacity to commit human cruelty. I give you Michelle Blair, known now as the Freezer Mom, because uh, her dark secrets were uncovered when the bodies of two of her children, both Stony Blair, age 11, and Stephen Berry, age 8, was found concealed in a deep freezer in her Detroit apartment. This disturbing crime not only captivated the nation but also sparked a heated debate on child abuse and mental health. Um, it becomes an outcry, you know. Her own children appear tragic. She was born to teenagers and has said she battled both abuse and neglect when asked. When she was just 9 years old, her mother abandoned her, leaving Blair to fend for herself within a broken system. The absence of proper parental guidance at such a young age would later take a haunting turn as Blair reached out and acted out in adulthood and started her own family too. The cycle of dysfunction continued. You know, numerous reports indicate that she subjected her children to severe physical and emotional abuse, yet her actions seemed to escape the attention of social services and authorities for quite some time, trapped in a dishearteningly neglectful system. Stony and Stephen were unfortunately victims of Michelle's raging mental health. You know, symptoms had to have appeared before this tragic event, yet she bled out, so to speak, because she was left unchecked. Back in 2015, 35-year-old Michelle Blair was living on the east side of Detroit with her four young children when she was evicted for not paying rent. She was unemployed and had been struggling financially, you know, but who hasn't? Her family, you know, even reports that she had recently asked for money. But she ultimately felt victimized by her children's fathers and society. She also did not seek any assistance for her mental health, which inevitably overpowered her decision making. You know, when you are on crack, you can't keep a job. When you don't have a job, you don't have money. And when you don't have money, you steal. And you uh, steal from your family. You lie just about everything. And ultimately, if not stopped, commit horrible crimes. And her having children, they become um, the real victims in the worst way, right? Sorry, my note just flew away. All right, but what I was saying was, I guess I just choose not to share all of the details because it's so graphic what she did and said, and it's hard to tell how much of her, you know, reasons are true. I can't even imagine how the remaining of the lives of the two children that survived, you know, will be. But this case welcomes, you know, anyone to look up. I will put the link in the description. Even, you know, just searching Freezer Mom on Google, and you will surely find the horrific details that occurred in that apartment complex. Ironically, even named Martin Luther King in Detroit, Michigan. She abused and murdered, though, two of her children, and the other two witnessed and yet survived. But yet, none of what was discovered was not till 2 to 3 years later. You know, how does that much, you know, time go by for these kids? Sorry, you guys know I get trouble speaking when it's a hard topic. My heart goes out to these children, especially the surviving ones. But the questions, many children I have, sorry, hold on. Um, well, anyways, when the eviction crew from the 36th District Court showed up at Blair's apartment to find clear signs of the worst abuse that led to brutal, double homicide of two children is in still, single digit years. What could have possibly happened, though, to prevent these two elementary school kids from, in the days to come in society, go unnoticed, that they're missing, while their bodies were not only hidden but kept frozen for nearly 2 years in Michelle's deep freezer. I also think back to, many questions the children I have spoken to that were brought into care, when I worked as a child crisis worker or at Hillcrest Receiving Home, which is now called Polinsky's Children's Home, for the emergency care of children, pulled from abusive homes, some as young as infant, seated in a high chair to be fed and had a black eye. I'll never forget some of the infants, spoon feeding them and seeing. And, apparently mom was so mad at the infant crying because what? They were hungry or hurt? I can't tell you how many times my heart broke telling these kids that someone truly cared about their well being. Many people do call that 619 kids number to report abuse, because commonly also asked, am I going to be just like my mom or dad? No. Um, and doing substances or stealing and killing with no remorse of a parent, how do the young children, not rescued, then become perpetrators themselves, right? And formed not even just homicide tendencies, but even sexual predators too. They both, exposed this behavior and not shown or taught, different than from what they know, right? Um, they they ultimately are exposed to this behavior and not shown or taught different than from what they were exposed to. That is the answer. It is the replica of the treatment they received. I think back, another mother who had 9 kids. Each kid she had kept being removed by the state. That by the ninth child, she was so desperate and embarrassed that instead of letting it be known while the kid was still alive that it too was being abused in the worst way, she killed the 4-year-old and buried him, then tried to pretend he was still alive, and even continued to get benefits of welfare and food stamps. That shit is horrific. To, by the way, how many abusers collect welfare, uh, long after even the child is alive is baffling. Um, they're committing fraud too. Collecting benefits from your dead child that you have hidden. And you won't wonder why I use the phrase batshit crazy if unchecked or treated. I can't believe how many still do that. It ruins it for the others who need it because they have to work twice as hard to prove themselves. So, do the monster mothers hand down also, though, the crime that the children who survived witnessed? Oh, all the horror if you only knew the kind of pertinent care that can be applied while still young, luckily. Even if they just start acting out. I remember as a kid, they have this program to help kids even prepare for court when they testify against, their parents and or perpetrators. They are usually close to the family in some way, whether relative or neighbor. I remember when being counseled to testify against my uncle for SA, that when he realized us kids were prepped and ready to testify against him, he suddenly became ready to strike a deal to get less time. Foster care, too, can poison little children, or a child in foster a long time and transferred too often uh, can decide violence as well. There is a big difference, though, between a personality disorder and a psychiatric illness. I want to be clear. It is simply not the same thing. It takes therapy to figure each case out for what it is or was, like depression, anxiety, even schizophrenia. There is absolutely also learned behaviors, right? The children who have been in the worst upbringing from their mother or father, now, yes, there is the gene factor, even for sexual predators, that the devil longs to replicate. But like most other life decisions, it still remains a choice that the child and or young adult continues to make. You know that never changes no matter what, right? Um, it too goes back to the nature versus nurture. You got the hard wiring, right? That comes the stream of the very influence of the environment in which a child is raised. Meantime, I got hit with something called compassion fatigue when trying to stay involved and help so many child abuse cases. Imagine that many first responders, I do, at some point must feel this way. I say this with cognizance to speak like something I like to call negapathically. You have to be aware of what risk factors some are willing to bring to one's home. You know, usually their one night stand, when even the youngest of children, live with the parent. Also, substance use and bringing in someone you just met that is now wanting to move in. How well do you know a person before you bring them around your children, really, right? Men and women alike. Remember, a psychopath is born, but a sociopath is made. The axe forgets, right? But the tree remembers. It's terrifying how abuse can screw you over and leave you in a closed and fixed mindset, but only if you let it. Every child is a person, too. They deserve to love and receive privacy, respect, trust, and space. I crack up laughing when I see the memory of something Whittle did at just 4 years old. To use as an example, we were at a campsite and she drug her blanket and stuffed animals out to the road. She fixed the blanket, spreading it out and arranging all her dolls. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Just having imaginations." As she lay and she just looked up at the sky while folding her arms under her head. I took a pic, because who knew even 4-year-olds could be so smart, right? Um, Yet, in a possible abusive home that may live as close as next door, that other 4 year old, spilled ice cream on her shirt, and that mother's response is, "She's ruined." What lesson is that imparting on her kid? I can only hope. Damn, my mother or father may have schizophrenia. What are the odds I end up that way? None, because I refuse to be like the worst parts of him or her ever. The best way to support someone with schizophrenia is to make a phone call if you are unprepared. It occurs in all societies, regardless of class, color, religion, and culture. One in every 100 people between the ages of 18 to 35 have some type of schizophrenia. It is actually more common in men than women. Some symptoms appear in the first episode, including things like paranoia. I have a little dry mouth, so I'm sucking on a little ice while I talk and share my lesson today with you guys. But in the beginning, a person decides, right, if they want to follow some of the feelings, that come over them or even try to control them. They can hear voices or see things that are not there and have these reoccur, becoming, yes, even inappropriate or unusual behavior. They may have impulsive actions as well as mood swings, thoughts and speech that is difficult to understand because unfortunately many, choose to self-medicate instead of seek help, which only compounds the problem, right? Others may just experience and show levels of depression and have very little motivation to help themselves. So they may need a little help, to just be reminded of facts versus opinions and kept in a supportive environment. Schizophrenia that remains untreated or not supported can lead to those people to thinking they are being harmed when they are not even harassed by anyone but their own thoughts. It will get difficult to talk to and listen to an untreated person because they speak so fast and repeat till they exhaust themselves. The same things. They will even hang on to movements and excitability or from just watching TV. The bottom line is that we have come across unsurmountable amounts of real hurts and mental health. But the key is there. It has to be a multiple amount, I say, of those that seek to love unconditionally and be more willing to be and see better, be a part of that crowd, right? All right, guys, that's all for today. I hope this helps. See you soon. Bye.